think it is really important that people operate within their unique ability. I ask myself this question all the time. It's a question that's really kind of more of a statement, but I need to be doing the thing that only I can do. And the question is, am I doing that? I think it's really important to ask good questions, but it's that thing that you do really well and can do for almost an indefinite amount of time.
Let's jump in. Our guest is Jason Baker, principal founder of Baker Katz,
which is a retail brokerage that specializes in tenant representation with a focus on strategy and location. I met the guy only once, and I already know we're going to be good friends by the way he has this gospel resonance, Christ as foremost in the way that he talks. So I'm looking forward to our conversation today. Jason, thanks for joining.
Hey, Sean, thanks for having me. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. So if you would, maybe you could go into maybe a few points of background and go in maybe a little deeper on your current focus.
Yeah, so in 1995, I graduated from college. I went to work for a company and a gentleman by the name of Ed Wolf. His company was called Wolf and Company. The company really had a retail focus. Number one, it helped retailers expand in the market that we were in, which was Houston. And then it also had a development focus. My focus for the first 10 years of my career was helping retailers like grocers and movie theaters and fast casual restaurants locate sites. And then we were there for 10 years. My friend and I were there. We happened to start there around the same time. And then we decided after 10 years to leave and start our own company, which is about 15 years ago. And so been in the business for about a total of 25 years, married, 4 girls, be married 20 years this year, and native Houstonian, and in the retail segment of the commercial real estate world.
That's great. That's great. And so this next question, I think you're uniquely qualified to answer. Having established an organization in the company of many individuals, I want to ask you about business teams and business partnerships. Do you have any mechanisms that you use to rule out business partners, potential clients that would either be shown to be untrustworthy and or ones that you're particularly drawn to because you know that you have a sense that they would be trustworthy?
Wow, that's a great question. And I love that you're starting off with that question. We thankfully we certainly have a few business partners, at least on the investment side of our business. I look at the people that I office with on a day-to-day basis as business partners as well. And then I also look at the clients we serve as business partners. That one I'll talk about last. But initially, history is a great is a great teacher. And I knew the guy that I started this company with, Kenneth Katz. I'd known him for probably 15 years before we started this company together, maybe even slightly longer than that. I saw a pattern really with him of transparency, of empathy, of honesty, and hard work. And that was a real telltale for me in knowing that would be a guy, having seen it consistently played out in his life over, call it 15 or more years. I knew that would be someone that I'd be interested in partnering with. I'm a big believer, including the people that you hire, that they are, like it or not, a reflection of who you are and what you're about, and you're a reflection of them. And so I think if it's somebody that I haven't had the luxury of 15 years of experience with, then we're going to meet many, many times before we ever decide to partner with them as an employee of our company or an independent contractor. So the process for me takes time. We have scaled very slowly, purposefully scaled very slowly, just because we really believe that a culture of sharing and operating within your unique ability and honesty and hard work, those people finding those people consistently. It's really hard work, and so we've purposely expanded very slowly. And then finally, as it relates to people we choose to work with, I look at them as partners as well. We set expectations. We set high expectations really early, not just for what we're going to provide them, but for what we're asking them to provide us. And we ask some questions around just long-term relationships. Oftentimes, those people have been sent to us, directed to us because of our reputation in the industry. And so we want them to understand that that means a lot to us, that someone would think highly enough to send them to us. But we've got a certain way of doing things and have done it the same way really for, since we started our company and really even before that. And so expectations around trust, expectations around information flow and responsiveness. And we can tell almost always in the first meeting or two in a conversation with them, which of course now is all happening by way of Zoom, whether they're serious about a relationship that goes out, out beyond a month. And if they are unable to either commit to that pretty early on in the conversation, it's generally not a fit for us. And then the other, this is going to sound also interesting, but we also get a sense too is, hey, and try to answer the question, is this somebody I'd enjoy working with? Even if they are okay with that, with somebody I would enjoy working with. That's not the very first question, but it's an early question.
Yeah.
And you just know, almost always, whether that's going to be a fit or not.
That's great. The interdynamic of team play is always something that I'm interested in. So I've appreciated hearing that, especially from you. As a Christian who's involved in real estate, what are some of the unique challenges that you have dealt with in the past, in particular with your company?
Yeah, Sean, I like that question. That's another good question. You learn a lot about people by the questions they ask. So I like that. I've got a meeting today, actually before lunch, with two guys here, one of which is Kenneth, the guy that started the company with us. And then another is a guy that we hired probably 7 or 8 years ago, who is he's got a pretty deep financial background. He worked at a bank and he's got some development experience and management experience. He's just a super, super talented guy by the name of Neil Wade. And it's been a total joy working with him. We're sitting down today to talk about in my opinion, some of the speed bumps or obstacles that we faced recently. And the conversation, frankly, is going to center around one concept, and that's unique ability. Who's doing what? Are those expectations, even internally, being clearly communicated? And then through that process, are we creating not just a great experience, but a great product for the customer or the client that's engaged us to help them? And I think a recalibration of that is really, really important. You can't be, if you're going to be an effective leader, in my opinion, you can't be afraid of conflict. And there has been, look, COVID's created all sorts of challenges, right? I mean, working virtually or remotely, to even the way that we communicate, that certainly has impacted the three of us that are meeting today. And so I think it's a reset in, hey, are your expectations of me being met? Are my expectations of you being met? And what's between those two things that's not being satisfied? Because ultimately, at least on the service side of our business, we want to know that the people that we're working with will continue to refer us, but also really happy with the product and the process that we're offering them. So to answer your question, I think this is really what you're asking. Is it related to teamwork? I think it is really important that people operate within their unique ability. I ask myself this question all the time. Kenneth does the same. And it is really simple. It's a question that's really kind of more of a statement, but I need to be doing the thing that only I can do. And the question is, am I doing that? Look, I think it is really important to be curious. And I think it's really important to ask good questions, which, Sean, I think you do a good job of. But I think it's also important that people around you feel empowered to make decisions. I think it is important that people around you are operating within their unique ability. And it's that thing that you do really well and can do for almost an indefinite amount of time. If you're operating with your unique ability, it shouldn't be a drain every day on you if you're operating within your unique ability. And so we hire to that. We really do. Look, we've also hired people know, hey, we know about them reputationally. They operate with a sense of urgency. They have a fabulous reputation. I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do with us, but I want to be around a person of that character and quality. So let's bring them on and then figure it out. We've done that before,
Wow.
but almost always we're hiring towards a specific role, and their unique ability needs to fit well within what we need in that role.
How did you develop a framework initially in the early days to know, okay, we need to establish these particular roles? It sounds like you had a strong sense of where your sweet spot is. I know that at this I excel, and I know that here is where I'm weak, and I need to staff my weaknesses over here. What did the original framework look like for you to determine that? Did you have help for that? Did you have maybe that was somebody else on your team who was making that determination? How did you develop the framework for that sort of an landscape?
That's a great question. I think it is important that a company continue to evolve, right, over time. The worst thing in the world is to get sort of stuck in one spot. I feel like that happens, right? That can happen early on if you're successful early on and you get in a rut, a little bit of a rut, subconsciously. I mean, you're like almost choosing not to continue to grow. What we looked like in 2005 and what we look like today is in a lot of ways different in what we're doing, where our resources are being spent, the way that we have built this team, and what the team does.
Sure.
It looks really different in one sense. I think there's also sort of a second half to our office that probably looks very similar. Not, it's very similar as it relates to the process. It's been refined, it's been tweaked, but we do believe that, look, there's real value created, and it's created by time, ideas, and relationships. And so on that, we really lean into that big time. But I think also it's the question, at least with the people on our team, is, man, what is it that you love? Because the thing that you love is almost always going to line up with what your unique ability is. And is the thing that you love, that unique ability of yours, is it a need that we have as a team? And if so, and you love it, how do we help you grow in that area? You know, when I was at this company I mentioned, Wolf and Company, the first 10 years of my career, more than several times, there were people outside of that company that approached us about coming to join them. And it was so interesting just listening to them pitch the idea of coming to work with them. And I wouldn't say we were always willing to listen, but we definitely listened more than once. And it was just interesting hearing these leaders of these other companies and how they would effectively communicate, like, hey, we don't want someone to grow so much that they kind of outgrow the idea of being with us. And so we kind of like manage people's growth. We don't want anybody to get too far ahead of the rest of the group. I remember thinking, God, that just sounds like a horrible environment. That to me does not feel like an environment where there is a lot of sharing and where there's a lot of encouragement of operating within your unique ability. When we started the company in 2005, there were so many things for us that were unclear, but there were a lot of things that were very clear. And one of those things was, I know in our industry, and this goes outside of the real estate industry, I think it's true a lot of places in a lot of businesses. I think it is, you know, if someone has the wind at their back and they have an opportunity to grow, either we don't, and they're going to grow fast and they're ambitious. Either we don't hire that person or we hire that person and we kind of put a cap on what they can do. Our thought from the very beginning was, what if we had a company and the culture and the opportunity for growth was so great that I think the chances as a percentage of they're going to be with us for a really long time. And not just to grow in their skill set, but also to grow as we grow financially with investment opportunities. And so we kind of took a different approach, at least what had been modeled for us. And I think it served us well. I mean, we've got a lot of people. Matter of fact, I would say the person in our office who's been with us the least amount of time is probably 4 or 5 years. But God, I mean, Kenneth, Tracy, and I have worked together for 25 years, and we're still in our 40s. I mean, we've been together, you know, more than half of our lives. I just think that that's important, and frankly, those are the kind of people I want to work with, not just in my own office space, but people outside of our office space that have a real longing to see people around them grow and to sort of slip into and fit into, honestly, the talents, the unique abilities that God's given them, which I could talk more about, but I know you've got some other questions. I love these questions though, Sean.
Thank you. I want to go into your work at the Seed, this fantastic organization. It's this organization that seeks to put the word out to as many people groups and languages as possible.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see if you could talk a little bit about your work with the Seed Company.
Oh man. Yeah. So probably 15 years ago, I was on a short-term mission trip with with a mentor of mine. He lives in Arizona. His name's Don Christensen, and he's a godly guy. He invited me to take a trip with him to South Africa. we had an amazing experience. It was the two of us teaming up with a couple of different mission groups in South Africa, and it was incredible. It was an incredible couple of weeks. I don't want to get off and talking about that, but Don's really ministered to me and spoken into my life. We were flying back to the United States, somewhere over the ocean. He said, "Hey, I really want you to get involved with the Seed Company. They're a Bible translation organization. And oh, by the way, there's thousands and thousands of language groups around the world that don't have a single word of scripture in their mother tongue language." I couldn't even get my head around that for the next several hours that we were on that plane. But that really was the beginning of an amazing journey. We not only became investors, but we became advocates. I ultimately served on the board, and I'm actually rolling off this year from serving as a board chair or vice chair for the last 4 years. It has been an amazing experience, and boy, has it expanded my worldview. God has done something through that to really stir my heart in the area of not only generosity, but understanding, leaning into, and being more empathetic towards those things that the Lord is doing around the globe and how his purposes are coming about. The gospel is winning. It doesn't mean that there's not obstacles. It doesn't mean there's not challenges, but the gospel is winning.
I love it.
And we're seeing that right now in the Bible translation movement. So look, there's billions of people, and I don't mean billions like, well, I actually mean hundreds of millions. I mean billions of people that have never heard the name of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And real estate deals are fun. and I love our team. There's very little I would change about the people I work with, but real estate is way overshadowed by my heart and my family's heart to see the gospel go forward. And our generosity, a big chunk of our generosity, has moved toward Bible translation for the rest of the world. You can talk about parachurch ministries and you can talk about the effectiveness of those ministries. But if you are a follower of Christ and you believe that the written word points us ultimately to the living word, which is Jesus Christ, then you have to have a passion and a zeal to see people receive God's word. So I look, and by the way, I also believe you meet their material needs, their physical needs, their relational needs, but you've got to finish this task. And the most amazing thing, Sean, is that the Seed Company is just one of several agencies that's going to finish this work, God willing, in my lifetime. And so when you think about Paul's writings and other writings in the New Testament, it says, like the gospel will go forward to the ends of the earth. And then he says, and then the end will come. So I can just tell you this: if sometime in the next, sometime between 2025 and 2033, the whole world, every language, all 7,000+ languages in the world will have a portion of scripture in their language for the first time in human history. That to me is profound. Matter of fact, it almost makes me choke up. It is profound what the Lord is doing around the world. And the fact that he's chosen us to have a role in that is amazing.
Yeah.
And the fact is, I don't want to be, nor do you, I know, Sean, want to be distracted by the things of this world. God's placed us where he's placed us to bring about his kingdom work, to be generous towards the nations, because Revelation 5, Revelation 7 says, hey, there will be a time in history when all of the nations will worship before Christ.
Yes.
How can they be there if not to receive the word?
Yes.
So these are some powerful times and some amazing times that we're in. I'm really grateful for the work God's given me here on this earth, but far more grateful for the role that he's given me in serving at the Seed Company. Again, I'm a very, very, very small part of his very, very big story. And I'm just so grateful that he has called and equipped and enabled me to have a small, very small part in that big story.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I wish I could go back and start again and start where we just started right here, because this is absolutely fascinating. I love hearing about these kinds of things and the interplay between life philosophy, kingdom purpose, and life work. That's really a beautiful thing to talk about. So thank you for talking about what you have about sort of this business partnership idea of focusing on empathy, transparency, and the reflection of unity as a team. The importance of slow scale for the sake of integrity and finding the right people to develop as the right team. Yeah. It's about the long game. Talking through team communication and conveying expectations for the sake of executing a great customer experience. That was very helpful. The importance of operating within your unique ability and the realization that the result comes from time, ideas, and relationships. And I think most importantly, seeing that we can be a part of now a movement in the word and the expansion of the kingdom that can be an accelerator to the kingdom purpose. I think that's really exciting. So Jason, thank you for your time today. I know you got to go, but I've enjoyed our time very much today and hope to do it again soon.
Hey, same with me, Sean. God bless you. And I think it's great what you're doing. And thanks for the questions and for including me, and look forward to getting to know you better too.